Alrighty, just hit record. We're live. Not really. We're just recording, but like we're gonna do this in like one big old take, and I'm gonna like not cut because I don't want to spend time editing this. I want to get it out there, and so let's just get right into it. Hi, my name's Captain Space Toaster. I have run Astroneer as a speedrunning game. I have done the any percent category, and I currently have the world record at 3 hours and 46 minutes. What that means is I have pressed the start game, brand new save, landed on the world, then from that point gotten every single triptych, the item you get from the center of every single planet or moon in Astroneer, gathered all 7 of them, brought them to the center solar platform or solar satellite, however you want to call that, put all of them in there, and then clicked the little like thing that shows up. It's a little like weird geodesic dome thing that you click or you hold, interact, and then you end the game. And I've done that in 3 hours. So let's talk a little bit about the route that I use to do that as fast as possible. I'm going to do my best to keep it open while also offering some helpful tips and tricks that I use currently to save time. But know that this is not the only way to play this game. In fact, there are other routes that could be way faster. This is just what I currently do, and hopefully it's an evolving or changing thing. I've only run this category like 6 times, and I have shaved an hour from my initial starting time. So there's a lot that changes in this run. It's pretty RNG based, but from what I've been able to tell so far, if you lose something that you needed, say you didn't get any starting power in your save, you started and there wasn't any good nearby like wind or wind turbines or solar panels, usually there's something else good that is nearby that you have found. So for the most part, while it is indeed a heavy RNG run, the things you find are useful, and the things you don't find you can make do without. Just continue going. We'll see if that changes here in a bit. And so let's imagine for a moment that we aren't in the save that I got the world record in, but we are in a brand new save. And let's kind of walk around and talk about what you might want to do first. You're going to have your starting medium printer, a very small platform B, and the oxygenator, which I immediately expand all 3 and then put them all down. There's a very tiny time save while the animation's going and you're like loading in a brand new world that's like slowly building out in front of you. You can interact with the landing pad and hit enter twice, and that will like spawn the items like while the animations are playing, which is super silly. You can save a couple seconds, but anyways, expand those and you're going to have some recipes immediately unlocked for you. You can make research chambers, which I don't make immediately, but you can. Neat. You can make small or large platform A's, which are what you see here, and that's all I use for the run. And then some other things that aren't super important now, but like you can make the large printer, for example. You'll need one, but I'd hold off on that. The first thing you need first is basically just like a bunch of large platform A's. You will at some point, I would say, need 4 or 5 for the whole run. So that's 10 resin or maybe 8 resin if you want to be super stingy about it. But maybe you only need 2 to start with. Let's say 2. Somewhere around there. And it really just depends on how much resin you find near your base. If you find a fair amount of resin, yeah, sure, build 2, build 3, why not? If you find only a small deposit of resin and you don't see any, well, 1, consider resetting. But if you don't, then you know, just make 1 and go from there. Your first objective, after you get like a couple platforms and like some compound and things in place, is you're going to need to explore or figure out how you're going to get 1,250 bytes. Obviously, you will need the smelting furnace as like one of your first buildings, so you're going to need 2 more resin for that and a compound. And then you'll need the drill mod 1. Your first objective is going to be getting the triptych on Silva, and it's really hard to do that if you run into that really tough dirt, so the drill mod 1 will help you get through it, and it's almost required, if not absolute. So, from there, we can talk about a couple of movement tips, hopefully real quick. I know for those who just need the route, you're not super interested in how to move, you probably already know how, but let's talk about it. You want to sprint. Jumping isn't super detrimental if you jump a lot. And then if you want to carry things great distances, of course you want to just slam things in your backpack if they fit, but let's say you found a working wind turbine, like this one here. So you can run over to it and pick it up, right? Now notice that if I walk away from it, that I won't be able to pick it up anymore. But I'm going to pull up my terrain tool, and now I can pick it up again. And so I don't know why this works, but I've been calling it terrain tool extension, and it is very useful. So I will oftentimes not ever carry things. I will run ahead of them and then use terrain tool extension to pick them up and bring them back with me. This is useful if you want to carry a number of large research samples, which aren't super useful. You don't want to rely on large research samples because they're so slow, or like wind turbines and solar panels that you want to bring back to your base. If you find those, that's great. On this run, I don't think I found too many of those, which is unfortunate. So I just had to use a lot of generators and other things. Also, I apparently never found this battery. Like, I literally just picked up this battery right now. This battery was here the entire run. I bet you if you go back in the world record, like, you're gonna see this battery just sitting here. That would have been useful had I used it. Batteries are really nice, as they basically allow you to store some extra power from a generator or like a solar panel and then use it when you need it most. So once you have a couple things throughout the world, let's talk about fast mining. Fast mining is a technique that I've found only recently, and it's not too crazy, and it's a little hard to show because I've mined almost everything nearby. So I'm going to go just kind of wandering just a little bit. Maybe I can find a deposit, and if I can't, I can at least show it off. So you will need a canister in order to perform this technique because it requires the flattened terrain tool key to work, and it only works if you don't have, or it only works if you have a canister with some dirt in it. So we have an empty canister. Let's drop these out. You'll see what I'm talking about. I only have empty canisters currently. I hit terrain tool X, can't do it. So you got to have a canister in your inventory with dirt. And when you do, you are allowed to turn on the terrain tool flatten option. And then the most important thing about it is when you have it on an angle, you are allowed to like send your terrain tool into the earth, which is different. Normally you have to like mine the terrain flat, and then as you slowly expose resources, you'll slowly get them. But for some odd reason, you are allowed to just like take a terrain flatten like edge and find one that like is going to slice a pile of resources and just like send your terrain tool deep down inside the earth. If you do that, you will instantly mine any resources it touches. And so if you find like a large astronium deposit or ammonium deposit, as you'll find, or even at the beginning of the game, and you need compound and resin, like those are incredibly useful ways to just get through, which is mining everything real fast. All right, so enough about the tips and tricks for the early game. Let's talk about what you're going to do once you have 1,250 bytes. You're going to research your smelter, and you're going to research drill mod 1. You're going to smelt a clay you hopefully find from somewhere. I believe on this speedrun I got it from this wreckage. If not, I found a clay deposit from somewhere just walking around. And then you're going to start making your descent. Oh, I forgot one. There's one more trick that's very useful. If you are exploring the base, I wouldn't recommend running tether lines everywhere. You can, but it costs a lot of compound. And there's a much better trick, which is to want to have some inventory space. If you make oxygen filters, I think I did do this a little bit in my current world record. You will use them and you can top off your oxygen. And then once you're full on oxygen, you can take them out of your inventory, and this will keep them from expiring. You are now able to start running and do whatever you want. And this oxygen filter that you're holding with your mouse will allow you to run. You can also do terrain tool extension if you need to get ahead of it and you want to run at just a little faster, and then try to pick it up from behind. It's very small though, so sometimes I usually just hold it in front of me. And then when you get low on oxygen, usually I'll let myself get all the way down to where it says I'm starting to suffocate. That is when I will eat into its lifetime just a little bit. I will use it to top off on oxygen. Once I get full, then I pull it right back out, and it will allow you to extend the lifetime of an oxygen filter to a great extent. You should be able to explore quite a distance on just one oxygen filter. Unfortunately, now that I've run this far away from the base, I will need to go back, but that's fine. And once we get back, we'll talk about how to descend into the earth quickly, which is a pretty easy technique. You dig down. I like to make a zigzag on the way down, and I like to imagine my tethers going straight through the zigzag. This will optimize how many tethers you use while getting down to the center of the planet. I do use tethers to get down. I don't use oxygen filters because I don't want to create a situation where I went too slowly and then I died and lose the entire run. So I use tethers, and as we walk around and figure out where I hid the hole, you usually want to put this hole somewhere where you won't accidentally discover it. So I put it on this kind of unused area of my base. You'll see that I tried to go down and then make a zigzag, and then you'll see I found a cavern right away, but right here I put the tether, and you can imagine it trying to go straight down through a zigzag. Once we found a wide open area, I just continued following the open caverns. Once I found these big old caverns, I continued going down. And here, like, I didn't put a tether right here. I left my tether here and then just like kind of went down over here and then started zigzagging underneath of it again to try and save that tether. So every single time you can save a tether that way, you're basically going to save yourself a whole bundle on the way down. As you descend, you're going to find a lot of research samples like this. Terrain tool extension works on them, so walking away, I can't pick it up. I'm going to pull up my terrain tool. Suddenly I can. It's great. So you can pick up all of these. You should do this. You should find as much research as you can on the way down. It's just a bummer because you're pretty resource constrained this whole run, and so getting some resources or getting some research bites like this will hopefully save a fair amount of time on the run later on. This will basically allow you to get soil extractor in the two mods, the wide mod and the boost mod, which are just very useful later on in the run. They're technically optional. Like, you could probably do the speedrun without the soil extractor and the mods, but the boost mod does get used later in the run, so you might as well get that anyway. But the wide mod, maybe you could do without, but it is really useful if you need to use canisters and the soil extractor to do anything useful, which usually you need it to make ammonium. You need a lot of ammonium in this game. You need 24 ammonium in the whole route. There are other routes that could use more if you want to unlock all the gateways to like teleport back up. We don't do that. Instead, we will need to remember to bring a packaged chair to the core of almost every planet except to Solo. This is where our ammonium deposit was this game. If you find ammonium, remember it. You're going to need to come back and visit it later to mine it, almost certainly. And then let's go talk about the chair glitch, because this is basically why the speedrun is even possible. So you don't need to unlock a surface gateway. In fact, I try not to because of how slow it is, even though you do save some time being able to teleport back up. Is another great example of how I was able to save almost a whole tether by just like going straight down through that zigzag. By going straight to the core with a packaged chair, you can use a clip that lets you basically like put the chair behind the terrain, and then you get in the chair and then like clip past the force field. So once you're in this open area and you happen to find a gateway spire, you can either choose to mine down it or just go through, depending on how safe you feel. The most dangerous plants that you're going to run into are the spitters, at least for me, because of how slow I move, and the spitters have a homing attack. But that is maybe perhaps a discussion for later as to whether or not you should just continue mining through the ground, or if you should indeed find a spire. Let's go see if we can find some astronium. I think there was some astronium here, and we might be able to find some more if we use terrain tool or fast mining, which is not going to be possible if I don't have the drill mod. But I do have the what do I have? I do have a canister, so let's go see if we can find some, even though we can't. So let's like create a pretty harsh angle, right? So you can see we're mining astronium. There's just not much left here, but in doing so, like, we're able to pick up a lot of stuff. So there's some maybe underneath where we were just now. Yeah, so I've already been here, and I've taken a lot of astronium out from this deposit. So we're not going to be able to show off much of it, but the idea being that if you find a very dense pile of resources, you should definitely try like using that flattened tool to get as much as you can very fast. Anyways, let's go ahead and head to the center of this core. I think I actually never ran tethers out to it. I actually almost died in this run because did I run out of tethers and I like didn't know where to find a compound? That seems right. I think I forgot to bring a safety compound here in my inventory, in my printer slot, and so I just like tried to run it without, and I was very close to suffocating. which doesn't kill the run. You just have to run back, but it's slow. But you'll see, indeed, this is a run that we have completed the game, but the force field is still up. But there should be a chair down here still. And so I'm going to go use the technique that I described earlier to try and perform the glitch. Apparently I was down here earlier or throwing tethers around, who knows. So we can go ahead and just like slam this somewhere. So you can pick up a tether, right? Wheel your camera back, put the tether behind the force field and go up. The same thing works with a chair. Now you want to give yourself a visual reference. You want to be able to have something that will orient you, because the moment you get in this rover seat and then get out and then pick up the chair, because the chair goes flying. I forgot to pick up the chair. The chair went somewhere. Now we're gonna have to find that because we need that to get out. There it is. So like I have no idea which one's the exit, and I've got 6 guesses. I came in the middle of one of these doorways. Is it down here? Was it up here? Was it up here? I don't know. And making sure that there's a tether somewhere is incredibly important. Otherwise, you're basically toast. Now, I don't see it, but it's oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. I see it. Okay. So then from here, you will have hopefully a quartz that you have mined on the way down from the planet in your inventory. It is usually able to be found. We have one hanging out here for some reason. And you'll get a triptych. And so why don't we just go ahead and get an extra one? Why not? And then you'll just flip right out. No need to teleport back up because there's no gateway on the surface. You never wasted time unlocking the gateway on the surface. And instead, you just run out. So in fact, in almost all circumstances, you're going to want to pick up your tethers on the way out because you need them later. But in this circumstance, this one specifically, we need so much research that you have to throw away everything in your inventory except the drill mod and the triptych. Even the canister's got to go even. So I keep the canister for as long as I can. I use the canister to maybe build some more helpful tunnels. In this save, I got really lucky. I found Astronium like not too far away. But you're going to want to look around, see where you can find your Astronium and figure out where some is. Let's see if we can demonstrate fast mining. Unfortunately, we don't have a drill mod to be able to. So if we can maybe spend some amount of time, maybe a minute or so, I'd love to show off how fast this technique is. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of exploring. I suppose it might be worth still picking up samples while you're down here. They're worth about 100 per, and even like an extra 4 or 5 is still just super useful at this point in the run. Because again, you're going to be power limited, so wasting time researching Astronium with power like delays how long it takes to get to DeSolo and all that other fun jazz. So all right, so we have what looks to be a clay deposit in this spire. So let's go see if we can use fast mining to get most of it. I don't know how successful it'll be, but let's give it a try. All right, so we saw that we got 4 or 5 like little pops really early. So let's see if we can do it again. Okay, let's see if we can go maybe at an angle. Nope, not much of an angle there, so let's go like here. Okay, so yeah, that just wasn't a very dense deposit, but that's okay. I think we were able to demonstrate at least how you can mine. It's also worth noting that you don't need a drill mod to mine resources anymore, which is also fascinating, but you do need to get through this very tough dirt. I don't have it, and I cannot touch this. I think it's a tier 2 or tier 3 dirt, and this is tier 1 or tier 2 dirt, and I can't even get close. So I would be able to mine through to the core without it, but I think making the spending the time above the planet just getting the drill mod is just worth it, just for the sake of like the time save alone. So I do see some Astronium in the distance, but I'm not going to be worried about it. So now we can talk about a technique that we've only recently discovered, and that's when you ascend, you can spam jump, right? You go pretty fast, but rather than doing that, you can hold sprint and then WASD, or you can spam 80, 80, 80. So I don't think it's very useful in low gravity situations, but in situations where you find that like you made yourself a tendril of dirt that's very flat and very long, kind of like this one, and it's slow to walk up, I'm going to hold sprint and then W80, and this is a very fast way to ascend right here. Normally I would try spamming jump through it all, and just spamming 80, 80, 80, 80 while holding W is a way faster ascension technique. You can see here I made some of my zigzags not very deep. I was being pretty shallow with how far out down I was going. And that's something that, honestly, I need to get better at. But it's a very important technique for this run. You'll be doing that on almost all the planets. So, now that you have, 12 Astronium, 1 Triptych, and 1 Drill Mod, maybe you're holding an Astronium in your hand still. You just need to get back up using your tether line, and then basically research 2 of it. You might be able to save yourself some time and not research some of it, because your next objective is to fly to DeSolo with 8 generators, 2 zinc, and I think that's almost everything. Your inventory is pretty constricted, so other things that are nice are a compound for tethers in your backpack, maybe a canister, because that's nice. You're going to need your drill mod still. Oh, and then at this point in the run, you might have your boost mod, where you got your boost mod and wide mod and soil extractor early at this point. You're going to probably need it at some point, so choosing when to get it is kind of loose and up to you if you want to really get it, but I think I got it at this point in the run. I'm going to have to check the VOD to be sure, but alrighty. I'm going to use the 80 spam here. The 80 spam is most useful if you've made yourself a very flat edge. It doesn't seem to be as useful on like the jaggedy edges. There, jumping might be a little more effective. But I digress. The hard part is remembering to input sprint. I might turn on hold to sprint because I have like sprint toggle on right now and it doesn't seem to be very accurate. So let's get up and then talk about what your next objectives are kind of in a little more detail. You want to fly to DeSolo and you need to unlock 1 surface gateway for the run to be valid. If you don't unlock a surface gateway somewhere, you will not be able to fly to the solar platform in the center of the galaxy. You need to do at least 1 of them. And so I choose DeSolo because I've got a really good chance of being able to land next to a gateway by selecting a landing location right next to a gateway. On Silva, you can always go north and find a gateway, or you can always, look at your starting planet as you descend on it and hope you land near one, or navigate to one that's close by. But I find that that's perhaps a little risky and just not worth the time, because you have to spend all the time getting out there and back when you could have just crafted it's 5 generators for a Silva surface gateway. You could have just crafted 3 more generators and then powered a DeSolo gateway, and you would have had a much easier time getting to it. And flying to DeSolo, you have the space in your inventory. You don't need much. The only required things are you need the 2 zinc, or the 1 zinc, depending on if you're actually unlocking a surface gateway or not. But that would be my recommendation. Bring 8 generators, put in the organic. That's what the soil extractor is really useful for, honestly, just making hordes of organic. Of course, if you're really close to a forest, you can use that too. But let's continue on. You'll land on DeSolo. And then from there, I would suggest unlocking the surface gateway which we're already circling back. Sorry, no notes. And then you don't need a chair, right? You don't need a chair if you're going to do that. If you otherwise are going to bring only 1 zinc, you will need a chair in the other slot. Oh, right, and you need to gather some very important resources, because you are unable to gather tungsten for the chem lab, but you can grab 1 on DeSolo. And before you come back, what I do in my run is take my small shuttle and fly to Glacio, and then I get 1 iron and 2 titanium from Glacio. So I have to leave with some of my spaces filled, but then I come back with even more of my spaces filled. So we're going to probably be leaving the generators on the ground. And again, ammonium is so precious of a resource that we're probably also leaving more generators on the ground, picking up ammonium on DeSolo or on Glacio if you happen to see it. On DeSolo, you can also find hydrazine and wrecked, abandoned debris and stuff, and grab that too, because that's really what you need. You need so much. You need 10 hydrazine. 10? 7. I think you need 7 for this run, but I'm starting to wonder. You need 7 hydrazine for this run. So that is 14 ammonium plus at least 4 more ammonium for the rockets you need. But then to do this trip, that means that you need to carry a thruster on your rocket and then need to carry 1 more thruster in your backpack. So when you fly to DeSola, let's see if we can remember this, and I'm terribly sorry for this presentation because I probably should have delivered this first. You need 2 zinc. You need your backup rocket, or your rocket to get to Glacium back. You probably want a canister. You need 8 generators, and that is 12 inventory slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So what else could we store? We need the drill, right? There's your 13th slot. And then you have your backpack slot, which is like a very restricted slot. You can change this print recipe to hold something like an extra compound. So I usually have it set to print tethers, because you will need tethers to get down and back up from DeSola. But usually there's no room to carry the tethers back. So sometimes they come back with me, sometimes they don't. It's kind of up to you when you decide what you want to bring back from your trip out there. Most of the time, I'm dropping all of my stuff that I can print again in favor of finding ammonium. So, you've done all that. You've gone to Glacio, or you've done DeSola, and you've gotten 2 triptychs, right? One lets you teleport back up to the surface. That's why you don't pick up the tethers. You teleport back to the surface. And then you have 1 extra triptych from the DeSola. You take a quick pit stop on Glacio. So you now have got a tungsten, a hematite, and 2 titanium. You can now fly back to Silva. You can make your chem lab, you can make your atmospheric condenser, and you can smelt the 2 titanium, and now you just have a lot to do. So you can research the rest of the things for this run. You will absolutely want a drill mod 3 to mine some of the very difficult to mine dirt on Aatrox and Glacium. I found a packager to be absolutely required, because you're going to want to package the atmospheric condenser and the chem lab for a pit stop. Well, you don't even need to make a pit stop. You'll need to package them so you can bring them later. I think I'll explain why just a little bit later. I researched small battery this run, and I made 1 when I was walking down Visanya, but it wasn't worth it. So ignore that. You need large storage. You, of course, will need the smelting furnace, the chem lab, and the atmo condenser. And then you will need the extra large rocket, or the large shuttle. So the large shuttle's pretty neat, because you can mount buildings in it, and they work. So you can put your power systems that you find, right? Any batteries you find throughout the run, any small turbines, any small solar panels, and even if you have the large storage, you can maybe fit 1 medium solar panel or 1 medium wind turbine into your large shuttle. So now your shuttle has the ability to hold a building and power it. And so you can pack or repackage your atmo condenser in your chem lab. And then the first thing I do once I get all situated and I get all of my resources, I'm going to have to go over those resources in a bit. My goal is to fly to Aatrox and finish using the machines that I need. So I'm going to land on Aatrox and get the 2 more gases that I couldn't have gotten before. The 1 sulfur and the 1 methane to get the resources you need. And then I'm going to drop the atmospheric condenser somewhere on the surface of Aatrox. Then I'm going to unpack the chem lab, and I'm going to make the rest of the resources I need for the rest of the run. I'm going to chuck that out of my inventory, and then that is it. You're done crafting resources. So the rest of the resources we need for the rest of the run are going to happen right now. So let's try and cover those at a high level. I've been hyping up how much ammonium you need. You need 7 hydrazine. So that's 14 ammonium right there. And so that is what you'll be doing now. So if you haven't found a way to route that ammonium deposit that you found earlier into your run, you're going to have to go out and make a trip to run, get it, and pick it back up using all the techniques we talked about. If you find a great source of ammonium, awesome. Good luck. Hope your runs, you could probably beat me in my world record. If you don't get lucky, you might have to spin up a second soil extractor and start mining dirt just to hammer out all this ammonium. 7 hydrazine makes 7 graphene. That's it. You just need 7 graphene. You need to take, of that 7 graphene, 4 of it for diamonds. So 2 graphene goes to a diamond. The second graphene goes to 2 diamonds. And the first diamond is saved. And then the other diamond is turned into drill mod 3 for the rest of your run. So 1 diamond is there for a research, or for the glacial core. So save that. And then the so De Solo is now taken care of. Silva has already been taken care of, and Glacio is now about to be ready to be taken care of. So also the Chem Lab can make an extra 1 unit of hydrogen. It doesn't need to be a full 5 units. It is 1 unit of hydrogen is enough. So that covers Aatrox. So now we only have 3 more planets that we need to do. And in order to get that diamond, we have an extra graphene lying around. So we have, out of our 7 graphene, consumed 4 of it for diamonds. 1 of it needs to be saved. And we already have our 5th planet. I think it's Novus that needs the graphene. Maybe it's Visanya. I can't remember now. And so now we only need 2 more resources. Well, those resources are, again, requiring gases that we don't have. So we have to land on Aatrox to get a sulfur. And we have to bring 2 carbon for the explosive powder. That's Calidor. And then the last one is we need a silicone for, I think it's Visanya. And that is methane and a quartz. So you have to leave a quartz that you didn't smelt yet somewhere. And a resin altogether. So those are the 7 resources you need. The rest of the things you need are, you'll need 3 more rockets, 4 if you want to have a safety one, and then you will need 5 chairs, because you're probably not bringing a small printer with you. And so bringing 1 chair down for every planet you visit is great, because you'll leave the chair there. You won't have to continue bringing it down. There might be ways to descend into the planet faster, but more on that perhaps in another video. I don't really know of a faster route. So there are faster ways down, but getting to that point in the run is kind of difficult. So we are already at 30 minutes. So that unfortunately is probably way too much time. So I apologize for taking too long to explain this, but hopefully I've covered enough of the basics. Unfortunately, these aren't super hard numbers. So what I'm going to do is try and share with you guys a PowerPoint that I have made that I use as notes throughout the run. Unfortunately, it's probably not super useful or detailed, but there are a couple slides that are like, wait, hold on. Before you fly to Aatrox, you need to have 2 medium storage, and they need to have this in it, for example. And those are probably super useful to know. So I'm going to go work on a PowerPoint right now while I re-encode this video to make it small enough to put on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time. I can only apologize for how long this took, and if it was useful, thank you so much. If you have any questions, because this was actually not useful or terrible, which is most likely the case, you can always find me on Twitch, where I speedrun this game occasionally, usually on Sundays for now. We'll see how long I can keep that up. You can find me on Discord, where my DMs are always open. And then I'm sure if you leave a comment in the video here and ask a question, I'll do what I can to answer it. Those are the best ways to get me, so I hope you all have a great and wonderful rest of your day. And, oh, right, if you need a link to that PowerPoint, right, there will be a link in the description for you. Thank you again so much. I am sorry for how long this video took. And this doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of how that dumb co-op any percent run works, because turns out the game's just broken.
We actually need to bring the platform back with us, because we're not going to be able to keep making more of them. So we just bring it with us. That's it. Simple as that. We just pick it up and take it with us through the gate.
Yeah, there's not much lag, remember?
And see you later.
It's so good.
So, now, I just dig straight down. Then, position the platform. And when you go into a hole with a seat on the front of your, there it is. When you go into a hole,
clip into the ground
with your seat on the front of a large platform B, you just can clip through layers. And as you keep going, you just get further and further, and it's fantastic. It just trivializes everything.